Welcome to the Blue Collar Nation podcast, the podcast dedicated to making the lives of home service professionals better. Now join Eric and Larry to talk about all things home service.
So today I'm going to be talking about the entrepreneurial vacation. We have Mike coming in right now. The entrepreneurial vacation, right? And I was just on one the other day, and it put some pictures up of my wife and I. We were at our anniversary, and we're out of town this last week. And we kind of think we get it because we've both been doing this a long time, but we don't always. And it was something that we were talking about while we were there, how we can make it more of a vacation than working, because it's a constant practice based on what's happening in your business, of course. And this is what we do. You're, I don't know, on a lake, and you got a Mai Tai in your hand, you got a laptop on your lap. On the beach, and you got the laptop. Or somewhere else, and you're on the phone. Or your kids are there, and they're like, hey, hang out with me. And you're like, and they're giving you that look. We all know I got that look a lot. I'm like, listen, I'm on my phone because I gotta deal with stuff. And it makes it a challenge, right? And this is I had a picture. This guy, the phone's on his back. I thought that was pretty funny. I had a picture years ago of my buddy Peter Lyons. Hopefully he's listening, or people know him. He has a business in California. And he had his hands in his lap with his phone in his lap for so long, he got a sunburn around his phone and his hands that were in his lap. He must have been doing it for hours. And his wife posted it. If I could find that picture, that would be amazing. And he is an extreme entrepreneur, and he has a testing company for lead and asbestos in California, and Rescon Environmental. Super smart, but in the beginning, he was so focused, he got a sunburn around his phone on the beach, right? And we kind of want to avoid that. I don't know if anybody else has had that happen to them like that. And this is about this past weekend. I'm going to talk a little bit about this. I was just on one entrepreneurial vacation. I was with my wife. We went to this great place with these cool trees. There was a waterfall. We're having a blast. We did well. But like I was saying earlier, I had an onboarding scheduled. She had a team member call out sick. I had a team meeting. Her phone kept ringing. It becomes a standard to be available for your team. And if you can make it intentional, you can get around these things. We always talk about systems in business and systems in business. This is another way to be intentional with the system so you can have a vacation. Now, on the way home, my wife and I were talking not to do this again. And we were talking about how to prepare. And I was telling her, this Parkinson's law that we talk about. And we talk about that with vacations, because the Parkinson's law is work expands to fill the time available for its completion. So, for example, you're going on vacation months in advance, weeks in advance, whatever it is. But you get everything ready, whether it's with business or personal, right at the last day. Everything gets done just right at the last second, right? Whether it's a vacation, whether it's a presentation, whether it's daily tasks, work expands to fill the available time for its completion. But if you get it done before then, and you get it organized with checklists and a system, and you get it dialed, it makes it a lot easier. So we were talking about this. Is it procrastination to leave things for the last second, or expand what needs to be done in the amount of time that we have? Or is it just lack of prioritizing? Right? And that's what we were discussing. And this is some of the things we talked about. So these are the things we said, the entrepreneurial vacation list, to avoid these problems where your team's calling you, where you schedule meetings by mistake, like I did, where you just get distractions on your vacation. You talk to your team, you say, who's in charge if a difficult client calls, or if someone calls in sick, Or who's going to process payroll if you're usually the person that processes payroll, right? Who are those people going to be? And you got to put it out there to everybody and say, this is what the process is, right? And this is what is going to happen. And you talk to them about that so everybody knows who's going to be in charge when these things happen. Somebody's better at dealing with clients. Somebody's better at dealing with internal people. Somebody knows how to process payroll. And you have contingency plans and you role play these scenarios. There's other things that come up. What if you get the bank gets overdrawn? Who can deal with that? Somebody gets injured. Who deals with that? Truck breaks down. Who deals with that? Who can handle these things and who's qualified? And if you go over that beforehand, it's much more smooth. Nobody's freaking out calling you up. And you role play these scenarios with your team. Okay. And then this is something we always thought about. Do you prep your referral sources when you leave town? Because if they're calling you, they have a job and they don't get you, and they get frustrated and call somebody else, you want to let them know, hey, I'm going to be out of town and somebody else is going to handle this. Or if your clients are calling you for something specific, hey, I'm going to be out of town, somebody else is going to be handling this. We had a guy in town, Minuteman Press, some great people, the Browns, very, very successful. They would literally close their business for the vacation. They would send out an email, say, listen, we're going to be closed this week, the week before New Year's, or in the middle of summer, or for spring break. We're going to be closed. Get your orders in. And that's what they did. I don't know the exact scenario there, why they did that, if they didn't trust their team, if they wanted their team to get on vacation at the same time. There must have been a strategy because they were very good business people. But if you don't want to do that, you don't want to close your business, you got to figure all this stuff out, right? And you got to remind your team you're not going to be available. You're doing this role playing thing that I'm talking about in contingency plans. Let them know. It's just like everything else in business. You got to tell your team a lot of times over and over, go over the plan more than once. You think if you tell your team more than once that it's going to happen? We all know it's not. You got to remind your team you're not available. Okay, I'm going to go over this over and over. Now, this is something that we figured out. I was thinking of stories with us in Shamrock. We used to forward our phones. If Eric was out of town or I was out of town, you dial *72 and your phone's forward. There you can't get any phones. But what about texts that come in? I don't know of somewhere that forwards texts. Let me write that down actually. Because there's got to be a service. We didn't know of it 8 or 9 years ago because people are reaching out to you by text and they don't get a reply back. Usually it's a referral source for client. They're going to get upset. So what I did is I went to France and I just left my phone with one of my team members. Respond to every single text. Look at what's going on, and you're interacting with all of our referral sources, all our clients, because a lot came through my phone specifically. We forwarded the phone to the main office, but all the texts that came in had to be dealt with immediately. Okay, and you got to figure out a plan. What works best in your business? That worked for us right then and there. Okay, but you got to decide what to do. You say, no, I'm going to take all the calls on vacation. If that's a choice you want to make, that's fine, as long as you're intentional. But say you get somewhere and there's no cell signal. You go on a vacation and it's on a lake somewhere and there's no signal at all. That's a problem. And then you got to have your autoresponder set up properly. For your email and for your text messages. There is a text message responder if you're driving. You can say, hey, I'm driving, I can't respond, but I'm pretty sure you have to click on that to make it happen. I don't know exactly, don't quote me, but these are the things to be intentional about your business that makes a big difference. Okay, and then again, you remind your team you're not going to be available. This is what my wife dealt with the other day. She's like, I told them, why are they reaching out to me, telling them we're going to be late, telling me all the problems? They forget. They're just doing their regular thing. You got to tell them over and over, I'm not going to be available. I'm not going to be available. And you got to tell them when they're texting you and calling you, I'm not available. Call this person. And they'll get it. Unfortunately, sometimes you have to do that. And then the vacation org chart. My wife thought I was very smart by talking about this because things change when you're on vacation. If you're on the top of the org chart and you're not there, you have somebody else move up there and assume those responsibilities. Who's going to assume the responsibilities they're not going to get to because they're doing other things? And that person shifts over, another person shifts over. So all of a sudden, your org chart when you're on vacation is a little bit different. And this helps an awful lot because it gives different people opportunity to be in different boxes on the org chart, right? Opportunity to see how your team does. If they rise or they fall with different responsibility. If they fail, that doesn't mean they're horrible. That just means that's not the right seat on the bus for them. So you can't hold it against them. It's kind of like a good, only a week. You give them a position for a week, see how they do it. If they don't do very well, or maybe they need more training, or maybe you're testing out a scenario here for a 1 week or 2 weeks or whatever it is. So you can see how your systems and processes are, even with training that you might have done beforehand, right? You can see who steps up and who doesn't step up. See what processes work and which ones do not work, like I was saying. But this is the hardest thing in business to do, is to let people fail so they learn. I mean, you have to be very judicious about who you're letting failing if you know there's going to be a future with them in your company. If you don't think there's going to be a future with them, you probably don't want to set them up to fail because they're just going to let the ball drop and break and roll down the street and they're just going to disappear. But people that you want to learn, you can let them want to learn and stay with your company. You can let them fail because that's where they're going to learn. And when you go on vacation, it's an opportunity for them to shine or not shine, see what they know and see what they don't know. And you don't always want to hold it against them if they don't know something and they're not sure what to do. Maybe it's in your training as well. You got to assume everything that's your fault from the beginning. And again, remind your team you're not available. Go over the plan again a whole bunch of times so everybody knows. You might have a company with 3 or 4 people. You might have a company with 10 or 20 people. If you have a company with 10 or 20 people and they're not trained so well, they're going to call you a whole lot more than, or if you have a team with 4 people and they're not trained, they're going to call you a whole lot more if you have a team of 10 or 20 people that are trained real well. Let me say that properly again. The better you train your team, the less they're going to call you and less going to be able to handle things better themselves and going over things with them before them. And then you got to see, what are you going to do when you're on your vacation? You're going to regroup and recharge. That is the goal. Generally speaking, with most vacations, you're going to regroup and recharge. You got to be intentional with that. You can bring a book, you read fiction, you're going to business. You can check out from everything and just read some fiction books or kids books, hanging out with the kids 100%, wife 100%, or you're going to try and learn a couple things in the meantime. Being intentional and figuring this out helps an awful lot. And I'm kind of speaking to myself because this is how I need to be more intentional. Are you going to listen to particular podcasts, right? What are you going to be thinking about? And where are you going? And then who are you vacationing with? This is with something that came up. Your vacation with family, your priorities are going to be different. If you're vacation with colleagues, your priorities are going to be different then. And if you have some clients that you're friends with and you're going away with them, that's going to be very different also. So these things all are important when planning your vacation. You want to enjoy your time off. That's the whole goal. Recharge and refresh. And then at the end, just like anything else that we do as entrepreneurs, you want to reflect. You want to reflect what worked and what didn't work and document it because you won't remember.
Thank you for listening to the Blue Collar Nation podcast. For more information about Eric and Larry and Supertech University, please visit us at supertechu.com. That is supertechu.com.